This is Walkery Creek. This is a pathway for our people to come through, travel through to Umriwarra. And there's a wee little town just around the corner here called Saltai. It's an old town while they was building Port Augusta, building the port there. And the first rail came through this valley, heading right up to Lee Creek and later on to Maree. And it's now called the Pitcherichi Pass. The gang used to go up and come back, or the Maori mix used to come up and go back. Well, we had the times for that, the dates for that when we could get down there and, just through the weekend, get down there on Thursday and back Monday. So that was a good getaway for us, yeah, the trains, yeah.
When we'd catch the train, we'd always go down to Copley, and Copley had a little railway station with a cement floor, and I remember camping there a lot of times with all my siblings, and we must have carried a lot of blankets and stuff with us to be camping there to catch I think it might have been the Maree mix. Used to catch it from Copley to go down to Port Augusta to see family members down there.
It used to leave some odd hours of the day, early hours in the morning or very late. And so we had to sleep at the railway station, and we'd have a little rug of some kind. We'd put it on the cement floor and we'd sleep there waiting for the Maree mix to come through.
And then we moved down to Port Augusta to stay with our grandmother. And I think it was about 64, 65. So Dad had taken Mum to Adelaide and left us there with our grandmother, and we did not enjoy it there. So one day we decided then that we wanted to go home to Lee Creek, and that's when we decided to go and try and get on the train.
I grew up mainly on the stations, at Umberetna Station. But during that time, my father did work on the railways. 1962, I reckon, he went up to Maree.
My old man got a job in 52, about 100 k's up the track. We were sitting there under the tank playing, and I could see these three guys walking up the track. And they were the senior roadmaster and the roadmaster. And we came up, I was talking to the old man, and said to my old man, said, "You want a job?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "Well, you go down to Maree, go into the roadie's office, and you can start working."
Back in those days with the trains travelling north to Maree, there'd be a train just coming, it's called the Maree Mix. It carried all the goods and, had passengers and so on. So it's taken all the goods up to Maree for it then to go on to Alice Springs. So that was like a base. Then the train changed lines there to Narrogate to take it on to Alice Springs. Copley was and Lee Creek was the place for shopping and stuff, we had to travel. Them days with the donkey buggy, took us 2 days to get in there, do our stuff in there, and, sometime they kept the train down to Port Augusta to go down and visit families and friends. We had a lot of the Euros went away for me to work on the railways. Even we had family living on the Sidens, Beltana, Parachilna, Brachana, Narudla. We had the families right through there, so we used to go and spend our holidays with them and meet up with family and friends. Yeah.
Like my mum had to get on the train to go to Orca, to the Orca hospital, because they'd closed his hospital down by the time I was born in 54. She had to catch the train to go down to Orca. I mean, a lot of people used it because not a lot of them had cars, and that sort of opened the bush out, up for people to go.
Beltana was the first base for the Cavaliers to operate, running their operations from Beltana up to Alice Springs.
I did cut the Ghan a couple of times down to Port Augusta and back, but that was in like in the 70s, you know. Then my father did get a job down in Port Augusta with the railways. We used to go to the Commonwealth store. Bobby Kevin, yeah, used to take us down there. We'd go and get an ice cream or something.
Your needs were provided by the Commonwealth Railways, and anything you needed, you know, if you needed to order goods from the Commonwealth stores, because they had their own stores, their own Father Christmas, and you know, the whole lot. So you became part of the railway, and the railway became you know, you owned it, you were part of it.
We got on the train and there was Terry's uncle and auntie was on the train, and they said to us, "What are you kids doing here?" And we said, "We want to go home." They said, "Where you want to go home to?" We said, "We want to go home to Lee Creek, to Dad." And they said, "Well, have you got any money?" And we said, "No." And we said, we just want to get on the train and go home." He said, "Oh, well, if you really want to go," he said, we'll have to try and hide yous." And I think they hid us under the seats. And in those days, it was that era when Mr. Waitman, John Waitman actually, he was the one that was responsible, I guess, for the removal of children, not only Argumutna people, but just all over. And he was the one that you had to look out for. So we got on the train and we looked through the window, and our grandmother must have called him. So they came onto the train, we could see them. They came onto the train, but they couldn't find us. So anyway, away we went on the train. And we got to Copley, and we saw one of our uncles there. When he saw us, we got off at Copley, and he said, "What are you kids doing here?" And we said, "Well, we're going home to Lee Creek to go home and see Dad." He said, "Your dad isn't there. Your dad's in Adelaide with your mum." So we didn't listen. We said, "No, we're not going to listen to you. We're still going to get on the train." We got back on the train and they took us into Telford, which was the train station in Lee Creek in the old town, because we knew our grandfather was there, Mum's dad. And so we went straight to him and he said, "What are you kids doing here?" And we said, "Well, we came back because we didn't like it in Port Augusta. We wanted to come back here to see Dad." Luckily, he had the key and he took us back home, bought some food, and then got in touch with Dad and said, "Your kids are back here." And he said, "I'll keep an eye on them."
Well, later when I went to do some secondary schooling in Port Augusta, when I was missing home, missing family, so on Friday nights I used to just wait till I found a moment when the train guards were looking to jump in the carriages and wait and hide there and get my free trip back to Copley. And you know, hiding all the time from any official-looking people, you know. That Maori mix was a slow train, you know. It stopped at every stop. Sometimes you can walk quicker than it, you know. Try and find each ride out to Nibabana, which is, you know, 60 kilometres out of Copley, and each ride out there, or walk, and then find my way back in there. It used to be the return trip was on a Monday, so you jumped the Maori mix again back to Port Augusta and rock up at school for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and back up again on Friday, you know.
After finishing a roving trip with my brother, I was asked to give the guys a hand at the railway for one day. That ended up being 36 years or something. I mean, so my job was with four other guys. We had to examine each train coming in and then examine the train before they going out and check to make sure that they were safe enough for transit and that. So check all the brakes and give the ticket to the driver to say that it was okay to go, yeah.
I mean, you know, our people did influence. You know, where they could, they'd influence change. or a detour around their sacred places. But some places weren't compromised because the government decided they want to do this. What's the point in going around when we can cut straight across? Some of the townships are where our people couldn't influence.
We were happy to go back to see our dad. Yeah, we knew Mum would be still in hospital, but so we just wanted to go home, I guess. Yeah.
No, I had 3 brother-in-laws who worked on the railways, and we used to catch the train down to visit them on the sidings, or even to Port Augusta, and visit them. And the train was probably a quicker way to get around them days, instead of driving down there on the dirt road.
One day we were sitting out on the front of the station here, and the fettlers were just, because they had their trolleys in the shed just down the track there, and they'd taken the trolleys out to go to work. They'd push it, and you had to push these section cars to thing. So they were pushing it, and the guy up in the front, he was pushing it, and he fell over, and his leg went over the rail, and the section car just went straight over top of his legs, and it was one of those heavy section cars. And so everyone jumped up and said, quick, ring the hospital up, get the hospital. The guy just jumped up, brushed his shirt and walked back, and they said, God, sit down, your leg is broken off, you know what I mean? He said, no, it's not. He said, yes, it is. He said, the section car went over. He said, I have a wooden leg.
I know Dad, and even when I was working for them, they had the Commonwealth store that you could book up. It meant when your pay came around, they'd take the money off you to pay the debt you've incurred during that fortnight, which meant at the end of the day you didn't get too much cash out of your pay, but that was all right. It's still, we were able to get food, book it up. And
so there was a curve approaching the bridge, and so in the curve you had to cut an insert out and then put in there. So you had to cut the right size, otherwise it will kick up, and the wheel will derail the train. So this happened, and the leading vehicle chopped out all the sleepers, and then you had all the wagons that coming trailing behind the one, who were running on dirt. And when they came to the bridge, there was no track, and so they were hanging like sausages off the bridge. And there was a train rover. A train rover used to go up, because his job was to make sure that all the stock was standing and it was safe when they got in good condition. He was celebrating the birthday of the guard. If he had been in the wagon in bed, should have been in bed at that time, one of the railway sleepers, railway track went straight through the bed, would have killed him. So he was very lucky.
It was strange in those days. I often think about it. You could rock up to a workplace, a bit of a toolbox meeting on what they're going to do for the day. I'd rock up there and say, Ian, you got a job for me. I'm here to work. Oh yeah, you can drive that truck, or you can do this. And he'd send me off doing it. You didn't have to go through all these interviews and stuff, not like nowadays. And I guess the similar thing happened with the railways. You could rock up there and more or less put yourself on, back in the day. Employ yourself.
Yet it's just said that it's no longer here, for our young generation these days,
And there was a bit of emotion when it was closing down. You had 7 guys, 5 fettlers in the ganger and a cook out on the siding and they would one guy would put in 7 sleepers a day. Then they got the electromatics and all this and the machines and that could go along to 100 sleepers in an hour, you know what I mean? So I say technology and the increase of freight actually brought about the closure of the railways, and they had to standardise the train over the railway tracks.